Other questions?
Governor, we're talking about job creation today, but yesterday the most repeated criticism was that the collective bargaining reform won't create a single job. Will you try to make the case to public workers that collective bargaining reform will make Ohio better?
Well, look, the collective bargaining is designed to give tools to officials of local government and schools so that they can manage their costs. I mean, we know we have an $8 billion budget deficit. We're going to transform as many of the programs as we possibly can, but there will be cuts. And I just met with the County Commissioners Association. I said, look, I just want to give you the tools to manage your costs. That's what this is about. Because if you can't manage your costs, you have to drive up your taxes, you drive up your taxes, and you drive out jobs. So this is just one piece of what is going to be a very comprehensive reform bill in the budget. And this allows people to manage things. If a company can't manage its costs, it usually goes bankrupt. But if a company can manage its costs, and if the state can manage its costs, and if local government can manage its costs, we're going to be on the right footing. So, and let me just suggest one other thing. You know, people say it's unfair. This is an effort to restore balance. Your average private sector worker in Ohio pays 23% towards their health care. The average city worker in this state pays 9%. So to suggest that we don't need to restore balance would be, you know, it wouldn't be fair to the taxpayers. The other thing is, there have been a lot of promises made to people that will never be kept. And I'm here to say, look, let's deal with reality here. And on top of it, if we can manage our costs at the state and the local level, we can set the platform for economic growth. So the whole business of collective bargaining reform is really designed to create a platform for job growth and entrepreneurship. Collective bargaining reform is just one tool in an overall process to fix Ohio.
You're talking about reform, but on the state level, the Republican bill right now wipes out collective bargaining totally. Would you like to see that perhaps restored so at least there are just some limits, but not wiping out collective bargaining for state workers?
You know, the bill in the Senate, you know, has its provisions. We have ours inside the governor's office. There's going to be a meeting of the minds. And if I start getting myself in any way removed from what they're doing, it's not helpful to the process. I am very optimistic that there'll be a meeting of the minds between the people who are moving this bill and our operation, and I think we'll get there. I feel very good about it. Look, we just did Jobs Ohio where there were a lot of changes and suggestions. Hershey the other day comes up to me breathlessly saying, you know, this bill's not going to pass, and it'll be fine. It'll be fine. And that's all I want to say at this point. At some point, I'll have more to say. I'm learning to say a little less.
Is the primary goal here to lead to concessions? Is that the primary goal here from the state unions?
No, no, no. The primary goal here is to give people the tools to manage their costs. You know, if you have an outsider that comes in and imposes a settlement on a city that it can't afford, they have to raise taxes. People say, well, binding arbitration doesn't happen very much. Of course it doesn't. Because you'd rather settle for the devil you know than the devil you don't know that is imposed upon you by an outsider. What we're trying to do is to restore some power in management. We want to narrow the scope of bargaining. We want to eliminate the right to strike, but we want people to be able to talk, sit down, negotiate, get through this whole thing. And you've got to give them the tools. Everybody knows that the local government fund is under pressure. I mean, everybody knows this. And when I met with the county commissioners or any local government people, I say to them, tell me what you need to have relief. Today, you know what they told me? We had a bill 2 years ago. We didn't get anybody to listen to it. I said, well, send me your things. So collective bargaining is one provision in a whole series of provisions to help them to cope with change so that we can ultimately have a great result. I can tell you that the people in, the officials in Brooklyn, by raising taxes have jeopardized, you know, the long-term position of American Greetings. These taxes matter to people. So I think collective bargaining will help people to cope. And as I told some people who are opposed to it, if you don't like it, that's okay. Give anybody any raise you want. But don't deny the tools to a manager who wants to use the tools to be able to help their community.
President Obama was critical of the legislation in Wisconsin. He called it an assault on unions. Can you respond to that? Do you think this is becoming part of a national fight now?
Well, you know what's going on in Wisconsin. I talked to the governor the other day, sent him an email I guess yesterday, the day before. He sends me emails. He's the last, 2 emails ago, he said, I suggest when any of your sports teams are #1, you don't come to Madison. You know, I think I'm not going to comment on the president. It speaks for itself. What I can tell you is, frankly, the more he weighs in, the stronger our people get, because they understand he has a different agenda than we have. But, you know, God bless the president. I'll be, I think, up in Cleveland greeting them when he lands in Cleveland on the tarmac.
What do you think,
Governor, do you think that your proposal do you think that the Senate's proposal on collective bargaining goes far enough?
I think that Shannon Jones is doing a good job, and we're just going to continue to work with the Senate and the House to make sure that we have a good result.
What if they weaken it, though? Do you think that you would then put it into your budget bill?
Well, look, I don't want to ever presume we're not going to reach agreement. I think we'll be able to reach agreement here on all of us, the House, the Senate. It's a process, and I guess the one thing my experience in government has taught me, and my experience in business, is be patient. None of these things are easy to work out. It just takes time. But if you're of, that's why I praise the Democrats today, you know, Capri Cafaro. I mean, just be of good cheer and we'll move it along.